What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Yours truly, JJ Buckets here, and we are talking basketball.
You got to put it back in my face.
And as usual, the topic of the day is the Raptors. And specifically regarding the Raptors, we are talking about the major takeaways from the first 10 games of the season. I'm sure you've all seen the title, so you know that's the drill. With this one here, depending on how much focus I feel like each category needs, I'm either going to talk more or less about it. Either I'm going to blow through it quickly, or I'm going to, spend some extensive time there if I feel like there's something really worth talking about or like it's worth exploring more. Nonetheless, let's hop into the video and let's see what the major takeaways are so far this season. So the first major takeaway here is we've seen a strength turn into a weakness. If you watch the games, of course, you know I'm talking about the team defense. A team that has prided themselves on their defense the past few seasons. A team that was top 5 both the past 2 years. In 2018-2019 when they were 5, and in 2019-2020 when they were 2nd in the league in terms of defensive rating, is now ranking 21st in the league. Bottom 10, and this is a team, I will once again remind you, that won a championship built on great defense. Obviously, this has been standing out. I don't know if it's the biggest standout to me, but it's definitely one of the major ones that you've just seen way too many bad defensive plays, way too many easy open looks for opponents. I think the game that really stands out to me the most is the Phoenix game when it looked like the Suns shooters, like especially with a team like the Suns that has so many great shooting options, they looked like they were just taking practice shots.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
Which is ridiculous to say the least. And I remember it was funny because I remember after that game seeing comment sections all over the place, whatever. It's just like, oh yeah, but the Suns had a great shooting night, blah, blah, blah. How often is that really gonna happen? Like, you just can't beat that sometimes when a team is hot. And I was just sitting there, I'm like, well, I mean, you're letting the team get hot by giving them all these open looks. So it's not like this was just a fluke shooting game. Jay Crowder and other shooters on the Phoenix Suns were shooting much of their looks just completely wide open. So defense is definitely an area of concern early on in this season. Sticking to the theme here of strengths going to weaknesses, we gotta talk about the bench, right? The bench production and just the bench has been lackluster so far this season. This is where I really think they're missing the presence of a guy like Serge Ibaka, and trust me, I'm gonna touch upon him more throughout this video. But nonetheless, the bench has just been lackluster for Nick Nurse, who has once again just seemed frustrated with them at times. He's been juggling around rotations and minutes plentiful early on this season, really trying to hone in on the guys that are gonna help him off the bench, but outside of a few guys, it just really hasn't been that great. Norman Powell in particular, who was averaging 16 points per game last season on 49% shooting, has dropped to 10.5 points per game on a woeful 39% from the field. 39%. And the worst part of this is his best performances this season have been when he's been in the starting lineup. So when he's actually come off the bench, his numbers are even worse. The lone exception to this has obviously been Chris Boucher, who has actually been fantastic off the bench. I don't think to a lot of people's surprise, but even still, like, he's been great. He's averaging 14.3 points per game so far off the bench with 6.2 rebounds per game and a very impressive 2.6 blocks per game on 58% shooting. Mind you, this is in 22 minutes a night. Impressive as all hell. He has been the lone bright spot for the bench that is otherwise just, it hasn't been it so far this season. And before I hear the comments, because I can just hear it in the back of my head right now, well, why isn't Nick Nurse playing Matt Thomas? Well, if you combine 1 and 2 together, Matt Thomas doesn't play great defense, or good defense, or average defense, or almost any defense. So, I mean, I think it's easy to explain why Matt Thomas isn't in the game, because I know a lot of Raptors fans, I've seen them frustrated that the fact that Matt Thomas isn't getting minutes, but when you're honestly such a liability on one end of the court, it's really hard to justify giving consistent minutes to a guy like that. The third takeaway here is going to be around Pascal Siakam. Now, not too long ago, I put a video up on this channel talking about the fact that the Raptors fans should have some patience with Pascal because he was a player that was also slow out of the gate. He didn't look great, but he's seemingly gotten his act together.
Don't give me hope.
Knock on wood, don't look now, but he looks a lot better. He looks a lot better in recent games. despite the lack of overall team success, he's actually averaging pretty great numbers recently. I think the Phoenix game for me was where it really looked like Pascal turned his play around. And let me tell you, since the Phoenix game, and mind you, like, it is a small sample size, but still, since the Phoenix game and onwards, Pascal is averaging a very healthy 24 points per game, 10.5 rebounds per game, and 7 assists per game on very good shooting numbers. Now, again, this is a small sample size, but this could realistically be a very good building block, hopefully, for Pascal moving forward. And, you know, obviously the dream is that he keeps up this kind of production because he's been very good. He has been very good of late, and I really want to know what you guys think. Comment below and let me know if Pascal's production of this kind is sustainable, or whether or not, you know, as a lot of Raptors fans still are, whether or not you're on the train of no, trade Pascal. Speaking of individual players, the next thing I want to talk about here is Fred VanVleet. And Fred VanVleet is showing why he deserved to have the back thrown at him this offseason. He continues to grow his game. So far this season, he's posted career highs in points per game, rebounds per game, field goal percentage, and a couple of other categories as well. Most impressively though, I think Fred has seemingly taken another step forward on the defensive end. I think he's been very good for this team on that side of the ball, which is impressive considering that the overall team defense hasn't been great. But I don't think you need to look further than a game like the one against the Warriors, where Fred was really the main guy guarding Steph Curry, and Steph Curry didn't play well. Obviously, the Raptors did bring a lot of defensive attention to Steph Curry, but Fred was the catalyst in that performance. And if this season doesn't turn out well and the Raptors keep losing, it, as much as it will pain a lot of Raptors fans, it might be a good idea and it might be time to deal Kyle Lowry to contender.
That is blasphemous! That is blasphemous!
And let Fred run his natural point guard spot to really let him continue this growth that he just shows again and again. The next one here is probably going to be the least surprising to those of you that have been regularly keeping up. And it's the fact that the 5 spot for the Raptors has just been a constant source of disappointment.
Hold on there, SpongeBob. Take that pile of filth out with you.
Aaron Baines looks like a shell of his former self. Alex Len is uninspiring, to put it kindly. And the undersized Chris Boucher has really been the best option at that spot. They have struggled in many regards thanks to this. That 5 spot is just a glaring hole on this roster right now, and particularly rebounding the ball is where they've struggled the most, lacking a big presence there. They're a bottom 10 team in the league right now when it comes to rebounds per game, and I think it's clear as day that the Raptors are missing the presence of, say, a guy like Marc Gasol. That obviously he was past his prime and he wasn't what he used to be, but he was still a great stabilizing force in the starting lineup. But more particularly, obviously, they're missing Serge Ibaka, who was a great interior presence both on the offensive side and on the defensive side. He had a great pick and pop game that the Raptors are also sorely missing, and obviously he had the ability to stretch the court as a big man. The Raptors have been plagued with a decent amount of just scoring droughts when it comes to third quarters or fourth quarters, late in games. And that's a spot where Serge Ibaka was really instrumental for this team. I can't stress enough how much better this bench would be with a guy like Serge on it. And I really don't think this is a problem that can be fixed internally. Maybe I'm wrong, hopefully I'm wrong, but I really do think the Raptors are gonna have to go external if they want to be competitive this season. If they want to really fix that 5 spot, I think a trade is almost a necessity at this point. Next one here is going to be short, sweet, and to the point, but I still think it's something that's worth discussing. The Raptors have had leads. They've had their opportunities to win games. They just haven't been able to hold on. They've had plenty of chances to come out on the right side of the result going into the fourth quarter or going into the second half, and they just haven't been able to hold on to these leads. For some of the things that I've talked about, whether it's bad bench production or just scoring droughts that have plagued this team, it has erased double-digit leads that the Raptors have posted, and this is something that's obviously gonna need addressing, but if addressed properly, I think it really can change a lot of the results that we've seen early on this season and turn a lot of losses into W's.
Let's go. That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
And I'm going to end things off here on a positive note. This team is flawed, but they're really not as bad as their 2-8 record suggests. They've been competitive in nearly all of their games, with the exception of, like, off the top of my head, the Boston game specifically. With a couple of things going differently, they easily could have been on the right end of a lot of these results. Do I think this team's core is still good enough to be a playoff team this year? Yeah, there's plenty to be optimistic around. There's plenty of talent here internally that this team could realistically still turn it around. Whether or not that's in their best interests, that's a discussion for another day. All right, that does it for me today. What'd you folks think? Did any of these takeaways surprise you? Did you more or less kind of know all the ones that I was talking about already beforehand because you've watched the games as well and you're smart? Or are there any takeaways that I missed that you think are really important as well? Comment below, let me know what you think. Of course, all the good stuff as usual. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you can. It's a great way to help this channel grow. Share the videos too. I really appreciate when you folks do all of that good stuff. It helps bring consistency to this channel, and it genuinely, like, really, it puts a smile on my face. Truly, just truly. Other than that, I believe my work here for the day is done, and I will see you all next time.